So one of the things that you should try to think about in terms of managing your data is really at a high level, what data do you even have? And this is not necessarily just your CRM data. You know, we have a lot of different data sources these days that we work with in our business, and you want to think about what those data sources are, how important are they to your business, how are they being used, where is that data being stored, and there's a few different reasons to think about this. One is for data security purposes. So who can access what information, how do they access that, how secure is that access? That's a really important problem for your business to be considering. This is also a chance to look for overlapping data or gaps in your data, you know, realizing that, oh, we actually don't have any place that we store information about X. Or on the flip side, we have information about our customers' addresses in 15 different systems, and none of them talk to each other, so we have 15 different addresses on file for some of our customers. And so there's a potential there to look for ways to make your data processes more consolidated and maybe integrate your system so that you have them talking to each other and you have one system of record that has the best possible information, and that information is then dispersed to the other systems that may need that information as well.
Something else you may want to do when you're managing your data is clean up your data. The simplest solution to that is to use filtering or reporting to find specific criteria that may not be correct. For example, you have a field that's very important. You could search to find where it's empty or where data doesn't conform to a specific standard. You could also use mass updating at that point to update values in a field, or you could even use a report making sure to include the ID of a record, export it to Excel, make changes there, and then import that to update data via the Sugar import wizard. You can also merge and delete data you don't need. For example, you could potentially search for records that are older than a certain date or haven't been modified in 10 years, and you could delete those. And you can even do some basic duplicate searching from within Sugar. You can really get into some really cool stuff if you have the bullet point a bigger mess there. There's add-on products. There's a product called DQ Global that can search all of the people or companies in your database and search for duplicates. And it does it with fuzzy matching and searching on a bunch of different fields, names, addresses, phone numbers, email addresses, and that data can all be pushed into Sugar for you to easily review to merge duplicates, or duplicates can automatically be merged. You can do things like search for, forgot what I was going to say. Oh, we have NCOA, National Change of Address integrations, where you can search to see if people have moved and update that data within Sugar. Or really, once you start exporting the data, you can do almost anything you want with it, whether that's in Excel or a database, and using a tool like Starfish ETL to kind of go through, query it, and transform the data with any sort of code you want. But you really kind of have to figure out, look at your data. If it's not clean, you can't report on it, your users can't find what they're looking for, and it's kind of useless to you. So take a look at your data, make sure you're thinking about what good data looks like to you, and then make a plan or ask for help for ways that that data can be cleaned up to make your users' lives easier so they'll use the system and get more value out of it.
And then once you've gone through that exercise and you've gotten clean data, you want to do what you can in order to help your users keep it clean moving forward. So you want to think about having some rules and conventions that you share with your team that are going to help them keep the data clean moving forward. That can be things like naming conventions. Do we use abbreviations in names? Do we use a and the? Do we spell out numbers or write them in the numeric form? How do we use punctuation, things like that. Back to Justin's point from earlier about picking the right field type, making sure that if it's a key data point that you want to be able to search on and report on, maybe using a text field for that data is not a good idea, so that you have consistent data values there that you can pull into your reports or your searches. And then again, using things like required fields, reports, processes that you've built to monitor data entry. So help your users follow the rules that you want them to follow, whether that's by requiring the values that you need them to fill out, whether that's by creating reports and dashboards that show them places where maybe they missed something and didn't follow the rules, or sending an email saying, hey, by the way, did you realize you forgot to fill this out on a particular field that you just created or record that you just created. You can build custom validation rules in Sugar with code that have more complex logic built into them. So I know, for example, one of our customers just did something where they require either the email address or the phone number to be filled out because they want to make sure they have at least some way to contact someone when they're added to their CRM system. But they know that sometimes they've got one and sometimes they have the other, and so it didn't make sense to make them both just required fields. Once you've decided what your rules and your processes need to look like, make sure you've got all of that documented somewhere. Talk to your Sugar users about it. Make sure that they understand what the rules are and how to follow them, and what the process is for making sure that those rules are being followed and what the consequences might be if they're not following them. And then also make sure you've added that to your onboarding process so that when you've got new people coming in and starting to use Sugar for the first time, that information is being shared with those users as well.